Hello there and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp. I'm the owner of Utrema Limited. We make a range of specialist inputs for hydroponics and other sectors, including gold leaf, as it's called in the US, or liquid gold, as it's known here in the UK. And I said on yesterday's episode of Hydroponics Daily that I would be talking about hydroponics in the former USSR. I didn't do any research on that topic. I just thought I'll research it today. So I did some research and found that there was virtually no research on hydroponics in the USSR. So there's no Soviet hydroponics secret labs or bases anywhere. There was a bit of few seeds germinated on the predecessor of the International Space Station, but that's about it. It was not a big area of research. So what I'm going to do today is instead do some comments from listeners and some updates on topics that we previously talked about as well. So the first one is that I did a whole episode on growing cacti hydroponically. Forgot to mention that dragon fruit are a type of cactus and they can be grown hydroponically. Most of the crops are grown in the ground worldwide, but lots of people out there have tried growing dragon fruits and their related species hydroponically. Dragon fruit are, if you don't know them, they look like a dragon egg, really. They're bright pink on the outside with green scales, and then they're white on the inside with black seeds. They not that tasty, I don't think. I think they look better than they taste, but they are an unusual fruit from an unusual type of plant. Another unusual fruit from an unusual type of plant is soursop or sugar apple, anything in the family Annona. Have a research of these because these are really interesting. These are actually related to magnolias and they're tropical magnolias. So not aware of anyone growing them hydroponically, but they've got some interesting chemicals. Some members of the family, I'm reading here on Wikipedia, contain neurotoxins that can be linked to Parkinson's-like disease. So that's interesting. So obviously in the UK we have Parkinson's disease, but not many people eat paw sugar apples or soursop, things like that. So that's an interesting plant. I was researching that because I was reading a book last night that had an error in it, a botanical error. The book is by the best-selling author Richard Osman, and it's his latest book, We Solve Murders. And in it describes one of the protagonists as coming back from the airport covered in magnolia petals. And magnolias don't have petals, so there's a mistake there for Richard, the normally very, very good on his facts, Richard Osmond. But actually magnolias are very, very primitive type of plants, just like the sugar apples, and they evolved before bees evolved, and so they don't have differentiated sepals and petals. They have fused sepals and petals called tepals. So she would have been coming back from the airport in Dublin covered in magnolia tepals. So Richard Osmond, I found a mistake in your book, your Times best-selling book. So that was interesting to look at. What else have I got to talk about today? Interesting news article today. In England, gene-edited crops will be allowed from 2026. So this is not genetically modified crops. This is basically CRISPR technology. And you'll notice I said the word England there, not Great Britain or the United Kingdom, because we've got devolved governments in those areas and they have not adopted these regulations. So both the Conservatives and the Labour governments, so Conservatives to begin with, and Labour have pushed this through because they really want to help farmers. So there's a number of different varieties that are coming in: disease-resistant potatoes, longer-lasting strawberries, potentially sweeter lettuce, wheat with reduced levels of asparagine. Don't know why that's important. Oh, because they form lower levels of acrylamide during baking. Very important in potatoes, that as well, when you're frying them. Acrylamide is a carcinogen that is formed in baked and fried goods. So you want to avoid that. So potentially healthier food and blight-resistant crops. So let's see if that actually happens or if it just increases the income for biotech companies, which was what happened with genetically modified crops and things like Roundup ready crops. So watch this space, England. Then about a week ago, I did an episode of the podcast. There was also a YouTube video about growing crops on Mars. And in the news this week is that Wrexham University, that prestigious university in North Wales. You might have heard of Wrexham. It's an industrial town in North Wales where they've got a football team owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. And Wrexham University have got a project working with local schools where the pupils are growing space pizza, or as it is in the Welsh language, pizza goffad. And they're growing each school will grow a different ingredient to make a pizza. So I'm assuming wheat for the base and tomatoes and basil. Well, so I don't know how they're going to do cheese. But yeah, this is an interesting project. It's like they've got hydroponic systems, and they're going out to the local schools. So that's a great way of getting kids in Wales interested in growing crops and growing crops hydroponically. So big up to Wrexham University and a company called Grozen, I think, is it as well. So that's interesting. So yeah, space pizza in Wales. Who would have thought it? Maybe the Mars missions to Mars will be speaking Welsh rather than English or any other language, Chinese, things like this. So that would be interesting. Maybe Wales will take over the space race now once the kids around Wrexham have start growing hydroponically. And lastly, my update on my microgreens. I'm still getting into microgreens in a big way. And I told you in the past about how I'm working on a soil-less reservoir type system that can be scaled up into our lab. And been Googling around how to get cost-effective seeds, because you go through a lot of seeds when you grow microgreens, and heard reports about how you can just take the seeds from health food shops, packets of things like mung beans and peas, and germinate from there. I've tried this in the past with not a great deal of success, so I've invested £20 worth of seeds. I've got, what did I get? Mung beans. Where's my packet? I'll get them. There you go. Oh no, they're over on the other side of the lab, and I can't be bothered. So off the top of my head, chia seeds, mung beans, quinoa, or as I like to call it, quinoa, spelt wheat, because I couldn't get any wheat, popcorn kernels, maybe one or two others, and I'm going to try and see if I can germinate them. It's going to be one big experiment, and hopefully a very colourful experiment, and see if I can grow microgreens from them. I'm really looking forward to growing the popcorn, especially because I want to make golden popcorn, which never sees the light of day until it's harvested, and then use that. My friend Ben owns a bakery, and we're going to put that into some sourdough or something like that. So nice sugary popcorn microgreens. Interestingly, I'm not going to mention that. It's top secret, that. I will leave you with a teaser. Anyway, that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. Thank you very much for listening to my ramble on many different subjects. Just a quick update episode. And if you've got any questions or comments, I'm more than happy to feature them on another roundup summary episode in the coming weeks. Thank you very much for listening. Do really appreciate it. If you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts particularly, then that would help me tremendously. We shot up the Apple podcast charts by about 170 places. We really were in the doldrums for a number of days, and then we shot up to like 37 overnight. So that was fantastic. That's probably due to a couple of good reviews on Apple Podcasts. So a couple more of those, we'll get even higher in the podcast charts, and then that will snowball, and the momentum should build with it by itself once we're in the top 10. I'm sure we can get it into the top 10. We could be the first hydroponics podcast to be consistently in the top 10 of the gardening podcasts, and put all these boring podcasts about to grow tomato plants. You get the tomato seeds and put them in the ground and then cover them with a layer of compost. All absolute bog standard boring stuff. Let's take advanced hydroponics to the moon, or to Mars even. Thank you very much for listening. I'll stop now. Goodbye.